Hello, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Before we get started, as you notice in front of me, there is an empty chair. As per usual, as last episode, let me. Hold on. Let me get comfy. Set the chair. Steven's not here, obviously. So, as I explained in the last episode, how it ended with me describing that Steven had gone to Chicago, and because he went to Chicago, we had to get the last episode, chop it up, didn't want to just break it and then present this one, wanted to do something different, so I thought then I would come on, do a little solo 10-15 minutes, and then this one will continue on with the conversation we had last week with the last episode, but I split it up in a way where they can both be their own independent episodes. So for the last one being 57, there was a lot of talk about truth and putting on a show. And in this one, Steven got more into how I asked him once about what it meant to be happy. And you know what, before I get into that, did you guys hear about the OK Boomer thing? I have no idea what it is. Let's see, who told me about it? I think my sister was on TikTok or some kind of social media platform, and so there's this new meme, OK Boomer, that's making fun of, I guess, the Boomer generation. Not really sure what it's about. Well, by the time this comes out, there might already be songs and other things out there poking fun at it. And when I was thinking about the OK Boomer thing and how it came about, it led me to think about sensitivity. And this will be talked about more after this in the episode that follows. But when I was thinking about sensitivity, then I started to think about what has led up to this sensitive culture. And I was thinking about the present. And when I think about the present, it always leads me to history and the past and or the future. So as I was thinking about the present, I was thinking about where it originated from, this sensitive culture, the cancel culture, and all these things. And to the best of my knowledge, from what I heard, is that these movements started to gain traction in the universities, specifically the Ivy League schools. And Ivy League schools historically were also the ground for a lot of the protest. So I started to go back into Vietnam and how these Ivy League students were protesting and how the protests have changed from then until now and what they were protesting about. And a lot of the times it was war. And I heard this theory once from a Twitch streamer. He was talking about, he himself was in the military before, specifically the army, and I believe his parents were also in the army, and he was speaking about how he believes that this sensitive culture is brought about because the generation hasn't faced this real war-torn struggle. And then there was back and forth between this Twitch streamer and his chat. And if you don't know what a Twitch streamer is, it's someone who plays video games on the computer and records himself. And if you're older and have children, you might see them on it. Or if you know what it is, it's kind of like YouTube Live. So the Twitch streamer was talking about, because this generation hasn't faced the war, that in turn has bred sensitive children, or children that misplace their struggle into something else. So as before, as when there were wars, World War I, World War II, Vietnam, the struggle those generations faced were war, death, post-traumatic stress, although it wasn't talked about. And when the men leave or the people leave to war, how those people over there have to deal with the consequence of war, and how the people left at home have to deal with the aftermath of that. And I suppose I was gonna say, I suppose in the 2000s we did face a war, but the war in the Middle East, but that, I don't want to diminish and say it wasn't a war, but how should I say it? Because of our advancement in technology, there wasn't as much, I would assume there wasn't as much, I should say, boots on the ground as before, because now we have the ability to use drones, whereas before it was really boots on the ground, people there fighting. So, well, actually, let me get away from that because I'm not too certain about that. That would be my assumption. But getting back to the sensitivity, he made the argument this generation has no real struggle. Because there's no real struggle in comparison to the struggle of before, where people had war, then that led to sensitive people. And is that true? I'm not sure. I've thought about it, and yeah, you could make that argument, but every generation, I think, faces their own problems, whether it be war or something else. And for me, generally, I don't like pinpointing one thing, saying this is this because of that. I think when he made that argument, that could be a factor, and I think it even was a factor, but I'm sure there's a whole bunch of other things that I haven't thought of that he probably hadn't considered either. So I think that definitely is a part of it, but I think there's a lot more that went into that. And it was funny too, because it was when I was thinking about, actually, let me not say it was funny, when I was kind of formulating this argument, I was thinking about this recent show I've been watching called Vinland Saga. It's an animated series. It follows a young boy who grows up in the Viking era. Viking era, the time zone or time place is the 1100s. 1100 to 11, I believe 10, 1110. And it follows specifically the people living in Greenland, New England, and I believe that side of Europe, the side that's closest to New England, I suppose the left side of it. So it follows the worn-torn civilizations of the time, and the main character, he's a retired, I shouldn't say retired, he's a a soldier that deserted the army. And he deserted the army because, first of all, he was a badass, slaughtering everybody in the show, and he reached the point where he didn't know why he was fighting anymore. Later on, when he's speaking to his son, he tells his son, or before he told his son anything, his son was 6 years old, still a little boy, but he could now speak. And his son was very interested in the idea of battle, as was everyone else in the village where the soldier lived. So he went into his father's old chest, he took out a blade, and he was hypnotized by it. It was shiny, he really liked the feel of it, he was playing around with it. His father came and started questioning him, why do you want it? What are you going to do with it? And then his father eventually took it away and said, remember, son, you have no real enemies. Later on, something happens to his father. His father dies. And the person that killed his father made a honorable pact that he will, if the father died, then they would let the people that were captured go. Father dies. Now the son is bloodthirsty, and he's actually traveling with the person that killed his father in the hopes that one day they could battle him. I say battle, but it's more like a duel, like a cowboy duel where you meet in high noon and you stand toe to toe and then you shoot them. But in this case, they don't have weapons, or I shouldn't say weapons. They don't have guns. They just have bows and arrows and swords. So this boy is 6 years old, and now he's growing up. 6 years old now, 7 years old, following this person that killed his father, acting as an assassin, I suppose, teaching himself how to kill, because the group that killed his father isn't helping him. He's just on his own. Anyway, to skip all the details of it, what it showed me about that kid is, and not just that kid, but the people who lived during that time, was how difficult they must have had it. Because going back now to our world and leaving that animated world, before we were very, when I say we, I mean humans, we lived in groups, and at any time we're prone to pirates or anyone else just coming and, what's the word, pillaging the village, killing everyone off, murder, rape. And I thought the troubles that they had back then are vastly different than the ones we have now. And I was wondering back then if they complained how we could complain now, because we've heard the saying that history repeats itself. So I was wondering if how we're sensitive now, if they still had that level of sensitivity. Now, I would assume if they did, then they would be sensitive towards other things. Like how now we complain, oh, there's traffic, or oh, they ran out of my favorite drink, etc. Did they complain about stuff that unimportant back then? So back then would they complain about, oh, my cow, not my cow, my pig only produced this amount of offspring. I wanted 10 and it only gave me 5. Something along those lines, where it's not. Lost my train of thought. Well, guess I'll end it there and just pass it to Steven. So this will be, how long has it been? Jeez. All right. Yep, I'm just going to pass this off to Steven. So if you've watched this long, hope you enjoyed the story. So Steven, take it away.
It's been on my mind the last 2 weeks, but there was a clip that we released on. You asked me something like, what is happiness, or what makes, like, what does it mean to be happy, or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
This probably wasn't that. It's not that specific word, but you asked me something and I was kind of like stuck because I wanted to answer.
Was it on here or off?
Yeah, it was on here.
Okay.
It's on the Two Mics and Some Theories clips page. Okay. And I just remember that there was like this long ass pause where I was kind of just like stuck. I mean, it wasn't because I didn't know how to answer. It's just, I knew that the answer I was going to give you right away, it was me copying somebody else's answer. Because I've never really actually given it any thought to what that was, like what it meant to be happy or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The very first thing that popped into my mind was just actions of being happy, or things that I would do that would result in my happiness. But it wasn't like the actual like me actually ever really thinking of it in like the philosophical sense of what it is to be happy, or what is happiness as a like thing, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why when I like all that went in my head when I resaw the clip, because it just reminded me of what I was feeling when you asked me that question.
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw the clip, it just kind of made me cringe, because I was like, oh, look at that fucking pause where I just don't know, like if it's like if a cat got my tongue, it was weird. It just made me feel at like odds with myself.
Yeah, I see what you mean with the same way that you hadn't thought about the what is, or that I guess now you're thinking about the what is happiness. I've been thinking about the what is love for the past 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like trying to come to not a conclusion, but an answer for myself to what is love, the idea of it, or to be in love with another person, or with an animal, or even with an object, or not even with an object, just with an inanimate thing, with the idea of power. And not just power, but I mean, that's just an example. It could be anything. The idea of you're in love with the idea of community. You're in love with the idea of free stuff. Just in love with things. And what does that mean? Then when you said the whole cringe and video thing, that's how I felt. I was the first 50 episodes where I would look at myself and I could remember moments where I was speaking to you where I thought of something else, but then it never came out.
Yeah.
Because I think before it was, I don't know, for some reason I thought we were going to get canceled. But fuck that cancel shit. That shit's... It's so...
Honestly, from what I've seen, is people roll with it and they get even more popular with their them being canceled.
It depends, but as far as with us goes, I really don't care what you say or what I say, as long as, and this goes back to when you say it, that you're, not that it's your idea, but when you say it, you mean it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say something, if you really believe that the earth is flat, then that's cool. Just then let's talk about it. And if you're really serious about it and it's not something that you heard before, like if it's really how you feel, then that's cool. Just I'm gonna ask you questions.
Yeah,
for sure. I want to grill you, but
that's why it goes back to the whole me wanting to give somebody else's answer, because obviously I would just be responding in words that I've heard other people say in other conversations. So yeah, I wouldn't. My answer wouldn't have been something I actually believed. It would have just been some generic ass answer that I've heard before.
All right, now I'm gonna go right. This whole thing came about. This whole just check and see what my dog's doing. This whole conversation came about because I think I told you this 2 weeks ago. I said, have you ever heard the quote, your second life begins when your first life ends?
Yeah, you've brought this up before, yeah.
Yeah, I asked you 2 weeks ago, and then you thought about it, and then you interrupted. And then we talked about something else. So when Cesar told me that quote, and it was one of the first times when, have you ever heard something and then you understood what it meant, even though you've never heard it before?
Yes.
Did you, or was that a question?
No. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So when he told me that quote, I never heard it before, but as soon as he said it, it's what's that generic the thing that everyone says where
epiphany. You had an epiphany about it.
The light bulb flash.
Yeah.
Like when they say that thing, as soon as he said those words, I understood what it meant without him having to explain it.
Mm-hmm.
And then he paused for a second, and then he explained it. But I had already understood what it meant just by him saying it. And when he said it, what I understood from that was your second life begins when you realize you only have one life left. And to me, right away, that meant that you've either accepted or you understand that you will die or that you're going to die. So it's you not only accepting, but understanding your own mortality. And because you've already accepted it, you know that there's such a limited amount of time that you have that you could say it pushes you or it drives you, but it's just a realization that now you know I'm this much old and one day I will die. And it doesn't mean that you're gonna get older. It just means it can happen in an hour, in a day, in a week, in a month, in a year, or in 10 or 100 years. But regardless, one day you will die. And then he went on to explain it, but I don't know. So when he said that led me to the whole PC thing and how I feel like we're expecting the future, or we want the future so bad, and we hate our past so much that it's robbing us of the present, because we're constantly thinking about the future, like the cancel thing. That's something in the future that may or may not happen, but it's taking time. We're focusing on that, so we're not as focused on the present as we were. Same thing with the past. We're focusing, I shouldn't say were. You might be focusing on something in the past and it's taking time away from the present. And because of that, you're not really in the present. And I remember I was looping around to this for a while. And then I thought of a quote by Bill Duke. He said, the smallest present there is a man that's wrapped up in himself. The smallest present there is a man wrapped up in himself. So then I thought, for some reason, then I started to want to counter argue it just for fun. So then I was just thinking of like different ways to counter it. Not that I didn't think it was true, but just to counter it. And then I came up with, and this isn't even a counter, but this was like a separate idea that I thought of, that is the best gift you can give someone is being in the present. Saw that play on words?
That's the first thing my mind went to, that play on words. I knew you'd like that. I was like, oh.
I didn't read that from anywhere. I just thought of that when I was trying to counter argue that.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I thought about it further, the best gift you can give someone is to be in the present. Because when you're in the present, then you're giving someone else or whoever it is your full attention. And when you're giving them your full attention, it's been my experience that people are more willing to connect with you in terms of talking. And when you can talk to someone else, again, going back to that PC bullshit, honestly, then you can make I don't want to say friend, I guess I'll say it again, a connection with them. And then hopefully you can learn something from them and they could learn something from you. And now this is the optimistic side and then in that way, by you changing yourself, being in the present, you're affecting another person, again, in the optimistic side, hopefully for the better.
Mm-hmm. Damn. That's a lot to take in.
This episode's going to go another 30 minutes because now we're going to talk about you.
Yeah, talk about me, huh? So, hold on. Before we move on, you never heard the whole yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery, today's a gift. That's why they call it present.
Yeah. Shit, I just remembered it now.
Yeah, that's right. As soon as you said it, first thing I thought was like, oh, that's a nice twist on the play on words. And then you're like, oh, I never read that or heard that anywhere. I was like, wait, that's a little rhyme.
I have heard that one before, and I think that's how consciously I didn't think of what you just said. I think it was subconsciously, and then they kind of came up, and it's kind of like a blurred puzzle piece where those two words stood out and the rest of the phrase was kind of hazy.
Yeah.
And I extracted those words and then I kind of changed it.
Because it sounds like you kind of said that as a rebuttal, like in clutch time, where you really had no time to think of it. You're just like, oh yeah, well, boom, here's this.
And it wasn't a rebuttal to the other quote. It's just a separate idea that I had. But I was trying to, I guess, rebuttal it. All right, let me ask you this. Well, first of all, I was going to say what I just said, which was fuck the school system, but I know I say that a lot, but recently I've been looking at it the other way, like how it's beneficial. But I was going to ask you, and I think I asked you this either 3 weeks ago or 1 week ago. I think it was 3 weeks ago. I said, do you think that that because you have a degree or you don't have a degree, that I think I said don't, that because you don't have a degree, that someone else who has a degree is smarter than you? And I'm asking you, do you think that?
Oh. I think I answered yes and no.
Yeah. I don't remember well, just tell me now.
Well, yes and no, because if they have a degree, that means they studied one specific thing. So I think they might be a little bit more, I want to say vested, but that's not the correct word. I think they might be a little bit more knowledgeable about that specific subject. But in all around knowledge, I don't have the best all around knowledge either. So it's kind of like I just go to a graph. Like they might be, at 100 in one area, but like at a 5 in somewhere else, where I might be at 100 in that specific area. So I don't know. It depends on, I guess, what the task at hand is, if there's a task, or it just depends on the scenario.
Okay. That's a great non-answer. Let me put on my shades because they make me look cool. And because I feel like when I put them on, it puts a layer of, how should I say it? Like a wall in front of me. Like it makes everything into a movie.
Oh, you're about to get deep.
Well, why would you say that? I don't know. Not the whole fuckboy P thing, but I don't know. I feel like
for the fuckboy P, you need sleeveless shirts and a hat.
You know what it is? I think when I put the shades on, it makes it feel like this isn't real, because you know how it darkens everything. So then, because it's not real, then it feel like, for me, this is only me when I put on shades, that I can say whatever. And let me start by saying the Los Angeles Rams are gonna take the Super Bowl 2020. Nah, I have no idea. I don't even follow that.
So not this year's Super Bowl, next year's Super Bowl.
All right. That's why it's a hot take, because it's next year's.
All right, for sure.
To answer your non-answer, I would just say no.
That they're not smarter than me because they have one and I don't.
No, that it means, I don't want to say it means nothing, but in terms of being smart, it means nothing. I've seen so many people that have degrees that shouldn't have gotten them, and so many people that don't have them that should have gotten them. And it doesn't even matter if they had it or if they didn't have it. If they were, I'll pick a specific task. If they were in bio, only because I know bio and because I saw people there, there's only one person that I've ever seen where I thought to myself, oh yeah, he's gonna make it. Where I wouldn't even know I didn't even know them, but I just knew them from a class, just based on how they asked questions and how they interacted. That, and when I say make it, I mean there's only been one person where I can say that person was smart, not because of we were in the same class and he got a degree, but because of how he thought and how he asked questions. Because no one else was asking the question. No one else, including myself, was asking the questions that he was asking. He was thinking of like the third step in whatever. He was asking questions where the professor would be like, "You're thinking too far ahead. I'll answer it in the next 3 chapters. Just hold on." And he did that consistently. So maybe he read ahead.
But yeah, that's the first thing I thought of.
I knew you were gonna.
I'm like, is this a charade or is he actually smart?
That was my thought too. But then I had him in a group, and no, he's the one person that I've ever met where I can say he was smart. And when I say smart, I mean specifically where his thoughts, the questions he would ask, led to the answer that he was searching for. So that's what I mean by smart. And he would get all A's. But on the opposite end, I saw another kid, someone else, in one of my labs who he could memorize fucking anything. He had amazing memory, but he didn't understand shit. Like, I remember going into the lab, and because everyone knew he was an A student, they would ask him, "Hey, how do you do this?" And it was something that was super. I could answer that question. Anyone could answer the question. It's just this one person didn't know it. They went up to him because he was the smartest one. "How do you answer this?" And he said, I remember his answer was, "Honestly, I don't know. I just memorized the formula and just followed it, and that's how I got it." I did respect that he was honest, though. Respect, but...
So he can memorize the how, but he just doesn't understand the why you're doing it.
Yeah, whereas the other person did. He either understood the why, or he was asking the questions to get him to the right answer, which would be the why.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by smart. And when I said no, I said no, it doesn't matter, because it really just depends on you. So just because someone came from Harvard and then they were up against you in some debate, 100%, you know who I'd put my money on? Them. I think they would wreck you, but I mean, but I wouldn't count you out.
Yeah. Do you feel that because you weren't asking the questions like that dude was, that schools we went to didn't prepare us correctly?
I don't know. I don't know what's up with how it's structured. It's just so... It just feels like they're selling education, if that makes sense. They're selling the idea of education.
Mm-hmm.
Where... And I'm not saying it's not important. I'm saying that they're selling it. But what they're covering it up as, they're covering education. They're hiding it in front of the universities. So they're selling education, but what they're giving you is a university, if that makes sense. They're giving you, I went to USC, I went to Washington, I went to Virginia, to Miami. They're giving you the university, but they're hiding the education. They're still giving it to you. That's just not their priority. Their priority is the money you bring in.
Yeah. I asked that question because I don't know if you remember when we were in high school, they had a program, was it CORE?
Yeah.
And there was always that thing that some teachers that weren't involved with the CORE program would kind of talk shit about it. Because CORE was supposed to have the smartest and the brightest kids. But I had teachers that would shit on it and say, yeah, they're smart, but they're teaching them what to think, not how to think. And when you were telling me about your classmate, where he would just, the way he thought and how he was thinking ahead, and all that, that's what it reminded me of. how I feel like sometimes in school they were teaching us what to think and not really how. And I think that's a bigger movement now with all the stories that we see on the internet, where like the students like complaining and trying to get a teacher fired because he's like having them do like this critical thinking course or whatever. But that's what I thought of. That's why I asked that question.
Yeah. I agree, I agree. And let's not get it mistaken. That is by design. It's meant to be that way. The more I think about it, the more I think they know. And when I say they, I mean whoever is working behind the scenes to set the curriculum and kind of guide the teachers of the lectures or whatever. I think it's like that on purpose to teach you what to think instead of how. But they still give you that. They're still giving you that education. They're just kind of narrowing it down to here's what we accept. Here's what we want you to know. Look, but I didn't want to get into the school system. I just wanted it to bring that part up and how it related to you. Just because you don't have a degree or I do or someone else doesn't or they do, that doesn't mean that I'm smarter and that you're not, or that you're smarter, or that I'm not. It just depends on what we're talking about, how you present it, what you say, how you say it, the ideas behind it, etc.
Yeah, I see what you're saying now.
And I think, and I have no idea, only you can answer this. I think you understand it. I just don't know if you believe it. And I can't answer that. I'm just saying that's how I feel. I know you understand what it means in the school system and all this.
Yeah.
I just don't know if you really believe it. Like if I were to put you up against someone for Harvard, that you would be confident that you would beat them. Like you would believe in if I put you up against someone from Harvard in physics, that you would believe in yourself. Not in terms of believing yourself like, oh, I believe I can do it. Like you would know, like I could beat him. Because I know if I went up against someone for Harvard for anything, let's say bio, since I did bio, and we did a test, I believe I can beat him. I don't know if I'll do it. And when I say B, I mean get a higher grade in the test. Like I believe I can do it. I just don't know if I will. Depends on how much I study and all this stuff. But there'll be no doubt that, oh no, I can't beat him because he went to Harvard.
No, I'm narcissistic as fuck. I would straight up be like, yeah, I'll knock his ass out too. What's up? Nah,
but that's something you're good at. That was fighting. I mean, what if I told you, let's see who can build a house better? And I'm assuming you don't know how to do it. And I put you up against someone who does know how to do it. From Harvard or whatever. Oh, I guess that's a bad example.
I'd end up building the better house though. It would just take me longer.
All right.
So because they already know how to do it, they kind of have a streamlined process. But where I feel that I would have the advantage is that because they know how to do it, they're going to disregard small things, and little things here and there will be mistakes that they make. Whereas I would be a lot more have a lot more attention to those little critical details, and I think that would result in me building the better house, even though it would take just longer.
All right. Yeah, I can't answer that. Only you can answer that. I can't say that was right or wrong. All right. Then there's one more thing I was going to say. Oh, yeah. Actually, I knew what I was going to say. I just stalled because...
I feel like you do that a lot.
I do. I know exactly what I'm going to say.
And look, I know that you do.
Don't get it mistaken. I know exactly what I'm going to say. If I ever pause, it's because I feel uncomfortable and I don't want to say it. So it's almost, you know what it is? It's this. You ever seen a movie, TV show, whatever, and then 8 Mile? Let me be more specific. The last battle. Eminem goes to the bathroom, and then he's right there by the sink. The last 30 minutes, and then he's just looking himself in the mirror, and then he's like, I don't want to say hyping himself up, but like preparing, right? And that's what I do when I pause. But it doesn't happen to the extent that he does it. He like takes minutes, like 5 minutes, chilling, going around, like preparing, hyping himself up. Maybe talks, maybe not him, but someone else talks to himself in the mirror. And when I pause, I go in my head and I mentally prepare.
So I feel like a better analogy to that would be like in regard to time frame would be to, like if you're cocking back a gun, like your little pause is the action of you cocking back the gun to release the info that you're about to say.
I see. Yeah, I see what you're trying to say. That would be in terms of time related. Yeah.
Yeah, because
I just said the 8 Mile one because it's a bigger drive.
Because I get the 8 Mile one though.
Yeah. What I was gonna say is, I'm sorry.
What? For what?
Yeah, you might not know it, but I know it. Because remember how I told you the whole laptop? The we're going to switch roles?
Mm-hmm.
I might have done it because I was salty.
I knew that.
Oh, okay. Well, I knew you knew that.
When we have those conversations, and I know we're going to have those conversations, even before you ever say anything, I know. Just based on your mood, kind of.
Yeah, because I get annoyed and then I get passive aggressive as fuck, and then I get condescending. That's a bit extreme.
You sugarcoat a lot, and I can tell when you're sugarcoating stuff because I'm just like, you're not gonna hurt my feelings, man. Just tell me, like, because a lot of the times I already know, you know, when like the conversation would come up, I knew that I was dropping the ball, and like I knew exactly what. Like I wasn't oblivious to what was going on. I knew exactly. So when I knew you were mad, I was like, I know why you're mad, or I know why it's bothering you.
Mm-hmm.
So like especially that time that you said you started with the ending first.
That was good, huh?
And I was like, I get what you're doing, and yeah, it is good, but like. I kind of already knew where it was heading.
I like to put on a show.
Nah, man. I like to think that I'm very... Damn, I just had the word in my head and I forgot the word.
Bougie?
No.
Understanding?
No, that's not the word. I like to think that I'm very... It's not the correct word either, but I'm going to go with nonchalant about things.
I see what you mean.
Like it
doesn't affect you. And I wouldn't say that
it takes a lot for me to really get bothered by something. Like it might annoy me or have me, you know, on it for a little bit, but then it'll just brush it off. It won't be that big of a deal to me.
Mm-hmm.
I like to think that. I might be wrong. Some things I might dwell on longer than others, but for me to really get upset, I think it takes a lot. Yeah.
It definitely does. Wait, so then let me ask you a question back. When I do the pause, does it only happen here? I hope it's not.
I pay more attention here. But it sometimes happens just when we're talking regular.
I think it spills over.
Because I know it's super obvious when you do that, though.
Because don't get it mistaken. The times that I actually do have a pause in words, like right now, that was a pause in words because I lost my train of thought. I would just say I lost my train of thought. Very rarely do I not. I don't know. It feels like I think I've said it before, like a bullet train just going. Where if I ever pause, the bullet train's just still going, but I take that little the gun cock, or the 8 Mile scene.
Yeah. But also, I feel like if you do lose your train of thought, the way your mind works, I think you get it back right away.
Right, and let's not get it mistaken. You're still going to edit those videos.
That's fine.
But I am going to help you with it. If you do that, then I can focus on doing on the videos as well, but cutting them up into pieces. So when you finish doing the audio and video, then send them to me, and then I'll cut them up and put them on social.
So, yeah.
So then when you finish that, and then you pass them over, and then we'll do that, and then while you're doing that, then I can focus on the marketing story, I guess. Trying to promote and, I don't want to say sell, build the, that's what I was going to say, the community. Build the community. I wanted to say, last time I said we're going to build a community, and I said I want to build a community because, hold on, let me try to find the right words. Because, how should I say it? Okay, have you ever, that's not the right way to say it. Okay, right there, blind. Trying to think of an example. I can't remember. Whoops, my bad. Anyway, build a community. Oh, yeah. Okay, you remember that? I got it. Remember that meme? Or have you ever seen that meme where it's a guy? It's a pretty poorly. It's a sketch of this guy, and then he's like, his eyes are like bloodshot red. He's like this, and then he's like weeping, and then he has like this mask in front of him, and when the mask is smiling. So I want to build a community because, shit, what are the right ways to say it? Because when I felt like the crying guy with the mask over me, what I would do is I would go to YouTube, Netflix, and other things, because when I would watch those, I would make a connection with the characters, whether it be on a movie, television, or book, whatever it was. And then when I made the connection with those characters, they kind of like when people listen to music to help them get through what they're going through. I never did that with music as much as I do it with characters from, again, movies, this, and etc. I find, for me, I do it more with anime and those characters because they're not limited to the PG or the PG-13 rating that a lot of the cartoons are. They have the freedom to really make those animes, I guess you would say, violent and dark, to put them in like the worst human situation, but then expand it into fantasy. So where here it would be in the real world, a brother murdering his brother, finding that his family gets slaughtered in the real world. In the fantasy world, it's a brother finding out his family gets slaughtered by vampires, and now he has to try to hunt them down and kill them, and he himself is a fairy. So he's, and I don't know if that's a real show, but it gets expanded.
For a second, I thought you were gonna go with the Sasuke route, but then you started talking about vampires. I was like, oh wait, okay, never mind.
Well, that's a good one too, but I don't know if I try to make one up, because I can go to the reason why I personally like Naruto, the character, or even just the show, is because Naruto, the character, I would want to be who he is, because no matter what he goes through, the people that are with him, he's always able to push through. Like, no matter how
he's resilient,
no matter how hard his situation gets, not to say he always succeeds, but he always continues.
Whether he's resilient.
Well, yeah. But I just had to be more specific.
Yeah, I get you.
So with the whole community thing, I would want people to come here and to find, again, I said it before, If you want to laugh, if you want to cry, or if you just want to hear us ask questions, then you're in the right place. And there's more to that if you want to find a connection, if you want to interact, etc. But yeah. There's one more thing else. And you know what? Fuck fashion.
What the fuck?
What was I going to say? I had to write this down. Oh, yeah, I remember. I was going to say, I was thinking about fashion and whether fashion was dependent on clothes or not. So what does that mean? So I think if Drake came out with, I'm going to make up this brand, Chrono. Drake came out with this Chrono brand and it was super cheesy. Like it just looked ugly and it doesn't look like if a regular person wore it that it would get popular. But because he's a popular figure, because he's wearing it, now it blows up. So then is fashion dependent on clothes? The clothes we wear? The Chrono brand? Or is it dependent on confidence or the person? I shouldn't say on the person who exudes that confidence, who's a celebrity, who's someone that we admire. And because we admire them, we whatever they think is fashionable, then we take that in.
The person.
That's what I thought too. And then I said, fuck fashion. Because then to a certain extent, it doesn't matter what you wear, but how you wear it.
Yeah.
But then I think when people think of fashion, they think of the brand.
The expensiveness of it, yeah.
So then why do people keep on trying to buy the clothes when really they want to be like the person? Instead of buying the clothes, why don't they just act more like that person?
People don't really want to work, and I think they see the shortcut in looking like them. They see a shortcut to being them, and that's why they want to look like them.
And they're putting on a show, and fuck fashion.
I'd 50% agree with you.
Because if tomorrow... shit. Never mind. Running low on time.
Yeah, I 50% agree with you.
All right, tell me real quick in 30 seconds.
But the reason why is because if I try to get into the club with sweats on, it would not work for me. It's all dependent on the person.
But what if in that scenario it didn't depend on the person, but who they knew?
Still the person.
Wait, but why is that 50%? Isn't that the same thing as it's dependent on the person, not the clothes?
Because you said... I was saying 50% to your last statement because you were like, this, and this, but fuck fashion.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean.
So I'm like...
And I said that, but...
I agree with you in the sense of the money. Like, the expensive brands don't mean shit.
Yeah, we give them the meaning.
Mm-hmm.
The value, I should say. All right, is there anything...
Yeah, rock what you got.
Is that... is there anything else?
Toodaloo!
And bye.